I'm Belinda Wasser, also known as Rocket Girl, and today we're going to talk about who is a bad client for you. Recently, a lot of people in my virtual assistant community, the Virtual Assistant Connection, have been asking me who my ideal client is. They're all working to figure that out for themselves, and it's a very important thing to do. So let me tell you my description of my ideal client. They're successful solo professionals who are willing to invest in their business. They're clear that they need the support that I offer, and they're generally around 45 years old, good communicators, nice, and respectful of me and generous. Those are the people I like to work with. However, it's also important to know who you don't want to work with, because sometimes, I know this happens to me, you get excited. Someone wants to work with you, and you start to ask questions, and you learn more about them, and you think it might work. But you're so in love with that moment that you might not stop and think about who's not a good client. So making this list really helps you. So let me show you who's not a good client for me. The first red flag is if I'm talking to someone and they're like, yeah, having a VA would be good, but I really like to do it myself. And so if I have to step in and say, oh no, it's going to be much better if you have a VA. You definitely will save time. This is going to be the best thing ever. If I'm doing any convincing at all, I need to just step away. This is not an ideal client for me, because once you're in a relationship like that, any relationship really, where you're having to convince someone of something over and over, it's just going to pretty much stay like that. So walk away from that. The other is when someone leads the conversation with how much I cost, or how much a project would cost, or brings that up over and over. That is also a red flag for me of someone who's not an ideal client. Now, I understand people are budget conscious. I understand that they want to know what the investment's going to be, and I totally understand that. I have a very clear method of pricing my services, but it's important that that isn't the whole conversation, because what will happen is every time I get near them and the clock starts running, my experience is that they just get nervous and anxious, and the project just doesn't go well because it's really focusing so much on the money. Now, this one took me a while to figure out, but my ideal client sits at their desk. Maybe not all day, but they sit in a desk. So people who don't work at a desk, like I had a client once, he installed floors for homeowners. Another one on dry cleaning, and he was out in the delivery vehicle all the time. It was hard for me to get their attention, and it was hard for me to make an impact. I'm not saying that they're a bad client in general. They might be exactly your niche. They just weren't a good fit for me. People who want me to be part of a big team. So I have worked for some very large organizations. However, I had one point of contact and one point of direction. Once it starts to get bigger than that, and it starts to be a committee, or everyone needs consensus, or there's a lot of meetings where I feel like I'm wasting my time, that's not a good fit for me. So it's really important to know this, and so I asked that question, and that's a criteria. People who are referred by people who I don't want to work with. So for example, if someone so a client is referred to me, and I am not a good fit with the person who was referred to me, that's a big red flag. So it's something to keep in mind. And people who give a bad vibe. Trust your gut. It's really critical, and you'll know you'll learn over time who's a good client and who's not. And take notes. Keep a list so you can refer to it. The last thing I want to do is I want to tell you about my free online classroom, the Virtual Assistant Connection. If you go over to Facebook and type the Virtual Assistant Connection, you can click the link to join and jump right in. It's filled with, we have, gosh, about 4,500 people who are either virtual assistants with lots of experience like me or just aspiring to become a VA. So come on over, take advantage of all the resources. We'd love to have you. So until next time, I'm Belinda Wasser, Rocket Girl, signing off.